digital literacy isn't just about being able to use a cell phone or being able to manipulate a cell phone. It has to do a lot more with understanding the basic dynamics of what that information phone savvy person, but doesn't make you digital illiterate, because the fact is there are so many other pinpoints, smaller micro ecosystems that all function together that make up that whole. So like how you talked about financial inclusion and social inclusion, I believe that drivers have to be put in place. So you have people who do micro courses off of, you go online and say, oh, buy my digital course. Like I like to preach, right, from the bedrock of what's the most important.
Okay. All right, so as we round off now, still in the light of celebrating young people, let's celebrate you and Padimi. I know over time you started this digital Isusu, and you have some other platforms. So what is new in your line?
Oh, for us, so basically we're trying to, the dream initially was to bring everybody, was to connect the unbanked and financially excluded. We're hitting our milestones, but right now we're trying to see how we can interface more with the government.
Okay.
So right now there are lots of stimulus packages going about, trade money, fair money, trade money and all the other products that the government is putting out. So right now we are trying to use our community and ecosystem to drive those changes, in the sense that when we were onboarding users, it was for the self. We would give you the tools to arm yourself, and we'll also be able to provide micro lending, microfinance to you to help you bolster your business. But right now, we're reaching to be able to connect with the government initiative and programs so that it can spread faster.
Okay.
Right, so it is one of those things where, it was a small circle of 10. Now it's a circle of 100.
Okay.
Right, by the time you empower the 100, they will go and empower.
Right, thank you so much, financially and of course socially.
Thank you so much for having me. It's always a pleasure.
All right, so that's the size of the show for today. As we go, let's celebrate the young people. Let us recognize the invaluable contributions of young people in the digital age. They are creating towards a more sustainable. I'll see you again next time. Bye for now.
Oftentimes when we see celebrities either on social media, here are some of the low points of some of your favorite celebrities.
Story. Once upon a time, there was a very young, agile, vivacious, spunky, unconventional Pekin. You have all come to know and love as Brother Dirili. Dirili, we really share with you. I've crashed barriers, I've scaled mountains, figuratively speaking, found another door. For every time I was put in a box, I have to prove myself. Must be. So you know what, this is my...
Is that when I was 17, my mom died. Not for it at all. And on her deathbed, she told my father, and I went to theatre school much to his disdain. Sponsor me because I was doing what he didn't want. Braid hair, there's a lot of stuff I do people don't know about just to make ends meet. But I worked hard, I stuck there, and I'm gonna keep on pushing on until that Oscar sits on top of my table. So, no matter what it is that you want to do, so far it's a good thing. Don't let anyone discourage you. There will always be a way around it if you just put your head down and put in the work.
What's up, everybody? They call me Road Boy. Now, let me share a brief and a small story for you guys, okay? Parents coming to pick you in school or taking you to, it will take you like 1 hour, 20. Your parents will prepare breakfast. Maybe my parents took it that way. Markets, transportation, security, whatever. It will give you that power,
To be honest, I did not think I was going to be an actor. I just thought I was going to sing. How? And then I got there early. My friend called that she had written my name in some audition. I was like, audition, ads film, me? I know they do. So she was like, come through, they're waiting. So because rehearsals had not started and the place wasn't so far from where I was, so I was like, okay, I'll just go and see what's up. Thereafter, I started going for auditions and auditions and auditions. Some people will say really nasty stuff to you. Instead of them to just say, no, go. They will yab you. They will make you not believe in yourself. You just feel like giving up. So I just chilled. And then one particular time, I got a BC, 1,000 Days of Blackberry. My friend sent me an audition BC. It was for Jennifer's Diary. So I said, guy, I know they go. All these things, they don't already get people where they want to put there. So I'm not going to go. So I was like, go. My mom told me to go. My dad told me to go, the amazing man, and my friend. So I didn't even know what to wear. So I was discouraged, like, nah, I'm not going to go. But my friend, thankfully, she works for Genevieve at the time. By the way, I love. I cannot explain the love I have for Genevieve. The place was crowded and I don't like crowd. So I went to hide in the restroom as always. That's what I always do. So I was there till like 8 p.m. For real. I called my mom. Mom, I'm leaving. She said, no, too bad it's audition. So I stayed there. 9 p.m. I auditioned. In my head, I was like, there's no way they won't have found people they need. A couple of weeks after, they called me for the second audition. We did a third audition. We did the final reading. We're quite a number of people reading for Toyosi. At the end of the day, as God would have it, I got the role for Jennifer's Diary to play Toyosi. I did not have any idea that the character was going to have so much continuity. I don't even know. I didn't know that I was going to be in several seasons. So, yeah, and that's how I found myself in Jennifer's Diary series.
Afghanistan is emerging from the darkness. Recovering from 30 years of war and repression, with a new democracy in place. But the country is still under siege from within. War with Taliban insurgents threatens the nation's security. Corruption reaches into the highest levels of government. Booming multi-billion
terrifying
crisis, a hard toward the brink of disaster. Under cover of darkness, somewhere along Afghanistan's eastern border with Pakistan, a farmer delivers his opium poppy crop to a local trafficker. Illegal narcotics revenue stream, one generating $4 billion a year in Afghanistan. Prior to 2002, opium cultivation was legal and highly profitable for farmers. returning up to 10 times more money per acre than other crops. The source for heroin, poppy became Afghanistan's most lucrative export. And it still is today. Cultivation has been banned since 2002. Yet poppy still grows in regions of the country where the central government has little control. The international community, led by the US and Great Britain, has invested hundreds of millions of dollars to combat Afghanistan's drug trade, mainly because money from opium helps fuel the Taliban insurgency. But when US-trained Afghan eradication teams plow up poppy plants, like here in Helmand province, it's not always the criminals who pay the price. Helmand as the center of the poppy trade, survival, and eradication. Afghanistan's poppy problem began in 1973 with the overthrow of King Zahir Shah, whose family had ruled the country for 2 centuries.
First of all, you have to know that the Russians spent 200 years trying to get control of Afghanistan because they wanted Afghanistan as the route to the Indian subcontinent and the sea.
The dreams of empire led the Soviets to invade Afghanistan in December 1979 and begin a brutal 10-year occupation.
روسانو په افغانستان کې ډېر بد خاطرې موږ داغونه لرو. افغانان په شهادت ورسول او ډېر افغانان مهاجر کړل د خپل ملک نه، ډېر افغانان معیوب کړل، ډېر افغانان وزورول ورته چې ژوندي د خاورو د لاندې کړل. نو موږ داغه نه ډېرې سختې او بدې خاطرې لرو. ټول افغانان داغه نه بدې خاطرې لري. د وروسته د راتګ نه او تر وتو پورې د افغانستان خلک د وروسته ډېر بدې خاطرې لري.
Throughout the 80s, Afghan fighters known as the Mujahideen battled endlessly to force a Soviet retreat.
ما درته مخکې ویلي چې دوی زمونږ په اسلام باندې تعرض وکړ. دا خو داسې تعرض نه و چې دوی یوازې په خاوره وکړو. دوی خو زمونږ اسلام نه مانه. دوی خو مونږ باندې هغه خپل سوسیالیستي چې دی که نه منل.
The Mujahideen resistance surprised the world. Soviet troops also left the country without a generation of leaders to move it forward.
Many of them were executed. They were simply thrown into prison. Some were tortured to death. Others were driven into exile to save their lives, and they're gone. So a whole generation of experienced leadership has been lost.
Lost, too, was the country's stable rural economy. 10 years of war left farmland ravaged or abandoned. Irrigation systems, livestock herds, roads, and markets were destroyed. Meanwhile, with few alternatives, desperate farmers turned to opium poppy cultivation for survival.
Before the Soviet invasion, there was really no cultivation or consumption of opium in Afghanistan to any commercial extent. It is only at the beginning of the 80s that Afghanistan started to develop the cultivation.
But as they extended their control into more areas where opium poppy was grown, they found. So instead they ruled that while
which is the most important thing to have in any country, and most important
morning
and promised that in 2 years there won't be any poppy plant left in Afghanistan. Well, obviously, this has not materialized at all. There is more poppy in Afghanistan today than there has been at any point in Afghanistan's history. There is more poppy today in Afghanistan than there has been in the modern history of the drug trade.
That fact was underscored by the United Nations report in August 2007.
Afghanistan produces 92% of the world's illicit opium, so we have virtually a monopoly situation.
A monopoly that many believe makes Afghanistan a narco state.
It is not a narco state, but it does produce a lot of poppies. Afghanistan has the problem of poppies, and Afghanistan has the problem of the fight against terrorism. We're fighting both.
But the fight against poppy is not going well.
The amount of cultivation in Afghanistan is scary. It's actually terrifying. No other country in the world has ever produced that much narcotics.
Nor has any country in modern times exported as much narcotics. Getting the product to market starts with the sap from the opium bulb being harvested in the fields. Through a series of steps in secret labs, the sap can be processed into grades of heroin inside the country. Then it's sent out along one of 3 main trafficking routes: east into Pakistan, south and west into Pakistan and Iran, and north into the Central Asian states and Russia. With hundreds of miles of open frontier borders and thousands of people pouring across checkpoints each day, smuggling narcotics out of Afghanistan, while risky, is big business. The $4 billion Afghan opium generates internally grows to over $40 billion as it travels through the Middle East, across Europe, and into Great Britain. This is more than a money-making criminal enterprise. Intelligence reveals links between Afghan drug efforts.
The Taliban has been one of the principal dealers in opium paste and in heroin. And we have seen the insurgency fueled by funding from the trade in drugs.
Estimates suggest as much as 40% of the Taliban's income derives from opium.
You look at a map of Afghanistan and see where the poppy is grown, and you look at a second map of Afghanistan to see where there's insecurity, it's the same map. Where there's poppy, there's insecurity. Where there's insecurity, there's poppy. And so what we're trying to do is adjust the strategy. We focus more on a closer coordinated counterinsurgency, counter-narcotics effort. We have to work more closely with the military to make sure those efforts are well coordinated.
Of Afghanistan's 32 provinces, 4 in the Taliban-controlled south produce 2/3 of the country's poppy crop. Signs of the Taliban where the plot for 9/11 was hatched. Today, it's a reminder of the tensions that still haunt this region. The U.S. military is in Afghanistan as part of a multinational NATO security force supporting the Karzai government and the Afghan National Army. And fighters funded in U.S. Staff Sergeant Lucas Hearn is stationed here at Zabul Province Forward Observation Base in the south. The front lines where the fight against NATO soldiers aren't the helping man the rugged hilltop keg, but it's where the future of a nation may be decided. Combating the poppy trade requires a strong government capable of safeguarding its people and enforcing its laws. In 2004, the United States developed a 5-pillar counter-narcotic strategy to help Afghanistan's fledgling democracy rid the country of drugs.
Well, the 5-pillar plan is a combination of incentives and disincentives, and that's the only way to defeat a narcotics problem anywhere in the world. You have to offer farmers an alternative crop for a poppy. You have to make sure there's something else they can grow. You have to have an education campaign that explains what poppy does. It's not just a beautiful flower that brings them money. It causes misery and harm in Afghanistan, around Afghanistan. And then there have to be law enforcement. Poppy is illegal in Afghanistan. People have to know there are consequences to growing it and trafficking in it. The United Nations says it's under cultivation. The objective is to...
But eradication can also be risky business for the government. On a dusty plateau in Oruzgan province, a joint U.S.-Afghan team prepares for an eradication.
We agreed with the Dutch to start with, at least, we'd stay safe.
Who've helped select the fields to be destroyed. General Mohammed Daoud, Deputy Minister of the Interior and a leader in Soon there's trouble. With gunfire on all sides, the eradication team flees to safety, leaving the mission unfinished. And the Taliban still in control.
When forceful eradication takes place, the rural population is still fundamentally dependent on the illicit opium poppy economy. It alienates the population from the government and the peacekeeping forces and pushes it into the hands of the Taliban.
Many agree, including a British member of parliament.
If we want to win in Afghanistan, we have to win over the farmers. And in the short term, you do not do that by corruptly destroying their opium crop. You persuade them over time that it is better and possible for them to have alternative livelihoods, to make meaningful sin and, tractor over someone's...
Livelihood programs have worked to replace, but the challenge is making them profitable and sustainable for all farmers. Failing this can undermine the effort. Case in point. As late as 2004, Nangarhar was a top opium producer, second only to Helmand in the Taliban-controlled south. Then the government, with the help...
Nangarhar saw a 90% decline in cultivation. And this was hailed as a major success of eradication and counter-narcotics policies in Afghanistan. Why was this? And shake up, those livelihoods would come.
Was one of the growing it. Based on the self of farmer, Durjan endured the... This year, Durjan must again persuade farmers. By complying with the ban, people have seen little belief in Afghanistan's future. Water for irrigation has been a particular problem everywhere. On rainwater alone, and in drought-like conditions.
کوکنارو کروندونه ځانونه وساتي وای نه کوي او دا چې اوس حکومت خو دومره وکولی شي چې ماته کړي دا اوس 4000 کورونه زه تقسیمولی شم خو دا نشم تقسیمولی نو که داسې کومکونه موږ سره کوي نه دي کوي.
In 2007, the Shinwari district returned to growing poppy.
The promises of alternative livelihoods never materialized. Assets, they were not able to meet basic.
The failure of the government to deliver on promises has another drawback. It undermines the authority of the elders, like Durjan, who speak on its behalf.
Many of the tribal leaders who Taliban to come into the province and to mobilize.
The return of high-yield cultivation to Nangarhar means more business and profits for the traffickers. 6 months earlier, The farmer got an advance from the trafficker toward his future poppy crop. Providing credit is standard business practice and helps farmers make it through the winter. It also proves the value of opium, which generally returns 8 to 10 times more per acre than crops like wheat or rice. The trafficker comes from a long line of those who followed in their father's footsteps.
زمونږ دا کاروبار مونږ ته د ډیر پخوانه راپاتې دی یعنې د خپل پلرونو نیکونو مونږ ته په دې سره خپل ژوند په مخ بیو بل داسې کاروبار زمونږ دپاره نشته چې مونږ یې دې ځای کې په دې منطقه کې وکړو مونږ دپاره په دې اندازه باندې مونږ ته کم عاید لاسته راشي.
With the average income less than $400 a year, for many, trafficking makes economic sense, despite the risks. The opium's freshness is judged by touch. Soft and putty-like now, it will later dry out and harden in storage, becoming more concentrated.
ذمہوار تر اخره پورې ذمہوار چې په پیرو اړول خاطمه زمونږ په کاروبار باندې کې څلور ځکه چې څومره چې هلته کار کمیږي عمر زمونږ دپاره عاید هم کمیږي مونږ که چېرته د قانون له حکومت د بدیل معاشیات ورکړي یعنې هغو دپاره داسې یو څه برابر کړي چې د دې کوکنارو او د دې اپین نه د هغو حاصل هغې ته توجه وکړي.
The trafficker's job is secure. 2 a.m. in Badakhshan province, and the anti-narcotics police begin their operation. They've lost time and possibly the provincial anti-drug force. But the portable generator is a good sign. And further kilograms of heroin were tipped off and escaped heroin. Comes the morphine base. It can later be processed into location and difficulty. It's too soon to declare a victim. They exist because the big money's in processing.
The UN Office on Drugs and Crime has estimated in recent years that the farmers are getting from 20 to 30%, and that traffickers, corrupt officials, Taliban, and other 70 or 80%.
Amount of money. The average per capita income in Afghanistan is under $400 a year. Few legal jobs can match the money earned in the drug trade have begun.
بیا هم پولیسو امروز وکولی شول چې دوه کسان چې د افغانستان اوسېدونکي غوښتل چې د کمیر د الوتکې په ذریعه بکسو کې چې ډېر په ماهرانه شکل سره ځای په ځای کړي وو غوښتل چې ولېږدوي بیا هم د بیدارو پولیسو لخوا د چک په وخت کې دستګیر.
Catching drug dealers and traffickers is only part.
لکه څرنګه چې ګران هیوادوال په دې باندې پوهېږي چې میدان هوایي ارتباطات تامینوي.
The next stop for these men is a date in an Afghan court. Defendants go to trial about outside the courtroom.
بران مواد مخدر روبرو هستیم و این کلش مجرمین سازمان یافته هستند چون مسلک ما پیش ما مقدس است با آن هم ما توقیفیت به مدت 10 سال.
While justice should be blind, it's often the small-time growers and dealers who are put in jail, caught up in the interdiction campaign.
حکومت دولت ریاست جمهوری پورې کابل کې موجود دي هم دا اوس هم ستا په پارلمان کې دا غړي دي.
But as big
At the end of the day, then it is very important that the cases are those people, you have to get evidence against them.
One high-level drug lord in the United States,
kingpins.
Baz Mohammed was the first defendant the Afghan government ever extradited for drug crimes.
He pled guilty to being a manager of a heroin transportation organization through which he moved heroin from Pakistan and Afghanistan to the U.S. from 1990 through 2005. From 1994 forward, he and his organization used some of the money from the sales of the heroin in the U.S. to support the Taliban in Afghanistan.
A key judgment to
the people of Afghanistan and to the I think that the corruption in Afghanistan is a significant issue, and it's not going to take a week or even a year. It's going to take a long time.
Corruption is a serious, serious problem. The police board. Unfortunately, this is becoming all too common in Afghanistan society in general, but it's certainly very much there in drugs.
Newspaper editor Shukriya
چون اگر فساد می‌بینین در اراکین دولتی موجود هست، قاچاق مواد مخدره می‌بینین موجود هست، گریز از حسابدهی موجود هست، گریز از میکنن. چطور من میتونم که پس همی توقع رو داشته باشم که خب بیا خیر است بیادر جان هرچی که بود تیر شو اما این دفعه بیا ما تو حساب میکنیم. نه.
Afghanistan has social and political structure hinders the growth of democracy in the country.
امیدوارم مردم افغانستان هم از این مصلحت‌ها تیر شوند و از خیمه‌های کونه و تنگی که دیگه به درد ملت و به درد خودشان نمیخوره و نام قوم و زبان و مذهب خود بیرون بکشن، بیاین به عنوان یک کسی که در یک سرزمین زندگی میکنه به یک تصمیم برسه که او تصمیم حاکمیت قانون، رفاه، صلح، ثبات و امنیت باشه. معلوم دار راهی که اگر امی راه 6 ساله خود لااقل ما تعقیب کنیم بریم به هیچ جای نمیرسیم.
Today, illegal processing in Afghanistan has made drugs cheaper and more available within the country. The result is that, increasingly, Afghans themselves are succumbing to the dangers of the country's largest cash crop. A recent United Nations survey puts the number of heroin addicts throughout the country at 50,000. That's in addition to 150,000 people who use opium. Poverty and unemployment are two causes of drug abuse. But in Afghanistan, there's another reason.
During the past quarter century, so many conflicts against the Soviet, against one another, the Mujahideen civil war period, the Taliban rules and the fight against the Taliban, all of this has created a context whereby people, especially internally displaced people, especially refugees, finding themselves in dire conditions. Some of them started to use opium as a way of just forgetting the daily chores and the daily difficulties and tragedies in life.
Drug addiction, unfortunately, has come to Afghanistan, mainly as a consequence of our being refugees in our neighboring countries. It ruins families. It's something that worries me a lot. It's something that we have not yet done much, unfortunately.
In Pakistan or Iran. Among them, 39-year-old Abdurrahman, who struggled 12 years with addiction. His life reveals a growing trend in a country where domestic drug abuse was once virtually unknown. Realizing how his addiction affected his family, Abdurrahman quit using heroin. He is very firm about his outlook on those working in the illegal drug trade.
کسی که این کار میکنه اون اصلا مسلمان نیست، زاده این خاک نیست، بر ضد مردم، بر ضد جوانای این وطن، بر ضد جهان. طور یک ایانه که از آساما اون بدتر است.
A flat, grassy plain that stretches hundreds of miles into Russia. In Balkh province, farming and herding still prevail as a way of life. Today, the province is poppy-free, the result of the government's rigorous and it's here where Dr. Mohammed Ehsan Hamra practices, serving some of the most remote parts of the country, where access to medical care is limited. Dr. Ehsan sees many addicts whose abuse resulted from war, displacement, or a society in chaos. DC estimates 1/3 of the people in this district, mostly Turkmen, are drug addicted.
بیشتر قوم ترکمن به شکل قبیلوی زندگی میکنن و از سالهای بسیار زیاد یا مصروف استعمال مواد مخدر، آن هم به خاطر کاهش دردشان است و عدم دسترسی به خدمات صحی باعث ازی شده که سالهای زیاد این مردم از اوپیوم یا تریاک من حیث دوای ضد درد استفاده کنند و عامل اصلی هم معمیر فکر میکنم که یا کارهای سنگینم مثل قالین بافی و چیزهای دیگه میکنن.
In a traditional village, opium addiction may look different than an urban setting. 50-year-old Najiba, a mother of 5, is a car 30 miles away.
کل جایم درد میکنم، کمرام درد میکنه، پایم درد میکنه.
وقتی پای کمرتان درد میکنه چی دوا استفاده میکنید؟
تریاک میخوریم.
تریاک خوب میکنه؟
ها، کمتر جمع میکنه جانای.
Weavers needing to keep their hands free.
از نظر ما یک تراژدی است، یک تراژدی انسانی که تجربه که من در این ساحه دارم و کارهایی که در این ساحه مواد مخدر یا از ضرر تریاک یا اوپیوم و اونمو است که طفل که هیچ گناهی نداره نیست که از ضرر مواد راحت داشته باشن، زندگی عاری از مواد مخدر داشته باشن.
Work-related pain. The world community solution.
If you read what we have to do is
on fighting drugs.
Meanwhile, as the insurgent, a UN assessment 2007.
د طالبانو د حکومت یعنی هغه سره موږ کوم ارتباط نه لرو نور تر موجودیت پورې دا هم
agreement Afghanistan's but there's not agreement on how best to
to start, and we are starting now.
Losing Afghanistan. There's a risk, and then we can do it.
Activity, even at night. Prostitutes and their clients, justly conservative society was able to interview sex workers about a thriving business that often takes place. Iranian sex workers are married. Many are university students or still in secondary school. And an Iranian welfare organization found that girls as young called Auntie arranging if someone is caught, a judge can impose prison time or lashes, and punishment is more likely to be handed to sex workers than to their clients. Routine expense.
الان اگه نرخ امروز بخوام بگم مثلا شاید ماهی مثلا 2 تومن اینا، ولی دوستان هستن که مثلا ماهی 5 تومن قشنگ اومد.
A number of women described the harsh economic pressure that drove them into sex work.
اوضاع خرابه، ما خیلی خوشمون نمیاد ولی دیگه مجبوریم. الان همه چی گرون شده. بعد یه جوری خرج زندگیمون رو در بیاریم دیگه.
دیگه پول بخوام کار نداشته باشم پیدا میشه درآمدش بیشتر بشه قبل از اینکه داشت کرده بودم.
The economic pressure has only worsened during the coronavirus crisis, sex workers who can't afford to lose their spoke about being coerced into sex work, even by family members.
پسر پولدار بود به مامانم گفتم دختر تو بده یه شب پیش من باشه. از اون زمان من دیگه منم خیلی حالا نسبت به مامانم خیلی بیشتر طلبه داشتم به
The situation was different before the 1970s narrated there. But many women and girls were the victims of trafficking.
9 سال 8 سال 10 سال مانده‌ها به مثلا
In the midst of the upheaval of 1970s died. Sex workers are in favor
بهداشتی باشه هم برای خودمون بهتره برای سلامت خودمون بهتره.
possible in an Islamic theocracy like Iran. Tales.
Communications Arts and a PhD in Social Incorporation, where he worked as a reporter under 1991, Shemore, copywriter and client service manager. He was a pioneer staff of the first financial corporate communications outfit in Nigeria. He established concrete community and government agencies. It is on record that his professional expertise has sustained a lot of brands introduced into the Nigerian market and are currently leader, Tenny. The program, which ran on 6 popular radio stations in southwest Nigeria for 13 weeks, was nominated for the prestigious Nigeria Media Merit Award University Ondo related activities. Shemore is a registered member of the Advertising Practitioners Council of Nigeria, APCON, Nigerian Institute of Public Relations. Let's welcome Shemore Badejo.
Thank you for having me here today. It's a pleasure.
It's very nice to have you here, to have a PhD in, of all things, psychology.
Yeah.
What led to that?
Well, I have a background in communication, and I practice communication. And basically, I just feel that it's a behavioral science. And for you to be able to understand your audience, the interest in psychology was developed, and not just psychology as a broad one, but social psychology with special emphasis on mass mobilization. And again, because I lecture, I like impacting knowledge. I like marrying the classroom with practice, theory with practice. So it has helped out.
Now that you're still practicing
as
a lecturer?
Oh, yes. I'm practicing, and then I'm also a public relations consultant.
Let's talk about public relations.
Yes,
now,
good.
How do you marry it? You're a public relations consultant. You're a very strong person in church. Yeah. All that, sometimes bordering on almost corruption or the old boys syndrome.
Yeah.
We went to school together. So
in the sense that we build relations, but I keep telling people that I think the artistic instinct in me, it comes to play in situations like that when people, so in situations where I find myself, I need money, but I still keep my integrity intact. So it has kept us, it has given us loyal customers, loyal clients. We don't want to be the biggest, we just want to add value.
And relevant.
And yes, and that's what we've been doing.
Now, you see, there's this thing about one's background and upbringing. Reverend gentleman, impacted on who you are today.
Well, it's actually the whole thing. Because I grew up in my mother, they were teachers. My father being a lover of music too. So that I had no social life growing up as a child. Everything was about the church. And even my plays were church. You know, until we started having some level of, took the better part of us to see what's happening there. But that background had always drawn us back into conscience, you know, working on our conscience to always do the right thing. So it's a passion for me to serve God. It's a way of life because that was what I grew up to know.
Okay.
So it's days to serve God.
Yeah, but you know, some people may have rebelled against that kind of rigid or regimented background.
Yeah.
You chose to stay.
We tried. I tried.
Oh, you tried too?
I tried, but it didn't work.
Oh.
My father, who was, God bless his soul, a bishop of the cane as an 11-year-old boy. And
114.
Yes, I counted and I didn't steal. All because I was late for prayers, early morning prayers. So I was stuck. He removed all my clothes and I was beaten naked. My mom could not stand it. She had to walk into her room. And what happened, I slept off. He rang the bell for prayers. I was not there. And they were banging on my door. And I had locked from behind.
Oh, no.
And that was the offense.
You actually invited the beating then.
Yes, I knocked from. So it was a banging. Neighbors had to come. In fact, they had to climb the ladder to draw my cover clothes before I could wake up. So while they were doing all of that, my father just went into a nearby bush and was just cutting canes. And immediately I came out of it. He said, just come to my room, remove your clothes. And that, as an 11-year-old boy.
What was that like for you?
Well, it got to a point I was dead to pains. I was just lying down there, being beat. That toughened me in life. So there is no challenge. I would say, what other pain can be much more higher than my father asking me to go and bring the cane?
Let's play a bit of psychology now. That experience,
yes.
How did you see it, even as you were growing up? Let's say when you now,
And I could hear the man too also say, he was also saying that the way his father trained him was not the way he would train his children too. So that means I will not be too far from the truth if I also choose not to train my children the way he trained me.
Yes.
And, you know, there is this story of a drunk who had 2 children. One of them became a drunk too, using his father as an example.
As an example, okay.
The other guy never tasted alcohol, using that same father as an example. So
it's a matter of choice.
It's a matter of choice.
Yeah.
And so I chose to take my father as someone who knew that was what he knew best as how to train a child. Spare the rod and spoil the child. And I did not, yes, when I was growing up, I didn't like the idea. But after a while, I give him credit for all that I've become. Sure. Even those tough situations that I found myself, I look back and say, if not for my father, I wouldn't be able to weather this storm.
Yeah.
Because he toughened me. There's no, even when we're growing, we're trying to be rascals. You know,
no, don't say we're trying. We don't admit it, own it. We were rascals.
Yes. So, and then I faced, once I look back, I think what challenge could there be? You know, so it toughened me. I saw the positive side of those.
The experience.
Yeah, those 3. Yes.
You're a multi-instrumentalist.
Oh, yes.
And you're making sure they are.
1974, he was traveling out. He was going to Britain and he was asking everybody, what should I bring back for you? As a secondary school student, and then maybe from 1 or 2. I said, I want a piano. While my brothers were asking for shirt, trousers, and all of that. Yeah. So he actually brought the piano.
Great.
So, and he brought what they call small wood piano tutor as a guide for me to learn. So, and he gave me a deadline. While my brothers and sisters were enjoying their clothes and I was busy studying music. Yes. And it would be, you know, those days parents would serve siesta and all of that.
Exactly.
Those things we don't know what it is these days. So it would be serving the siesta in the room and I would play a key wrong. Told you not to look at the keys while playing. And I was like, is it? You know, But later in life, I started enjoying it because now I'll go to some churches. I found myself valuable, you know, even as much as I try to hide, you know, my gift will actually, expose me.
Yeah.
And I'm enjoying it. And I discovered that it has also, you know, helped in my literary appreciation.
Appreciation, yes.
I think so. I just chose that. Okay, fine. My children too. I did.
Just admit that you took away their choice.
I will tell you why I said they don't have it. Naturally fell in love with piano.
Yes.
And my second son naturally fell. I was not pushing. You know, they were just trying to, and they had been performing as a group, the three of them, since they were young. So right now, the one that you know,
that time will come.
So I don't. My daughter played the guitar too.
Oh,
so
good. Developed.
I remember youth choir. So so and this fellow actually wanted to. Oh, you're just trying to learn. He was reporting that to me. I was happy. So now be who they want to be.
Which we at Plus TV are happening now.
Yes.
With what happened, talk about. I mean, and then come back to talk about what led you to the good old days.
Yeah.
Why the concept? What are the challenges related to it? And what it is bringing forth as a tool of communicating with the society, especially the younger generation.
Okay.
We'll take a break now. Welcome back to Timeless Conversations. My guest is Shemori of the good old.
Yes, actually, let me first say that it was also another passion.
Okay.
And it was a challenge because I was discussing with one of my children, and he said it's not possible. He said it can never be possible. That because he was wondering how we were surviving. So I realized that they lack sense of history. Know about the second coming of Obasanjo history. So you don't blame them if they become aggressive. They grew up when Nigeria was not as good as when we grew up. So they are aggressive, they tend to. I just chose to say, okay, so that by the time you tell your story, I tell my story, they can piece it together and be able to say, this man, even if he's lying, this other person cannot be lying, this one cannot be lying, and there is a common ground for them to begin to see what we are talking about. Yes. So, and it is actually, it's effective because now in this age of Google, once they listen to something, they will want to go and Google
cross-check.
Yes. I remember when one of my guests talked about the Muritala, the assassination of Muritala, and all of them. I recall that one of them called me and said, so did we ever have a head of state that was assassinated in Nigeria? I said, that's a graduate of about 3 years or 4.
Yes.
I said, yes. I said, you can Google it. So it came back to me with information that I even never knew. It was now telling me about how Babangida, Dimka, and one of them were great friends. Mamman Vatsa. Yes. How they were great friends. How it's because of their closeness that Danjuma had to ask Babangida to go and foil the coup. You know, he was now giving information about what happened. Now, what led him to that research? It's because of that episode.
Yes.
Now, he was now more educated about that era of Nigerian history.
Yes.
And that encouraged me to flog in school, in his days in secondary school, for their inability to pay school fees. So one morning he told his dad, I'm not going to school today because, you have not paid my school fees. To the school, he went to the principal's office. He said, well, I have come to take this guy's portion of it. It doesn't work. It's my fault. I am not begrudging you for your position, for your decision. But please, let me take this stroke of cane on his behalf. And I'll be coming every morning until I pay that school fees. And they said the principal just said, no. In fact, from that day, they stopped caning them in school, in Elisha Grammar School. So this guy came to tell his story about how his dad used wisdom to change a system, a seemingly for beat any child in school.
Big time.
These days, you know. So our fathers had some wisdom of addressing these issues. And we need to bring back those wisdom. We need to let them know that everything is not about protest. Everything is not about, it's about looking at a period of time. We've had over 100 guests coming to talk. I'm always faced with, what is in need for you? Why are you doing this? I said, I'm happy when this message is getting across to who it is getting across to. It is not financially driven. It is just patriotically driven. It is something that I feel that our children need. And then, so that progress is the best known parameter for measuring progress. Because you have to compare two things. You have to compare one era with another one to say, okay, if we started out our past. So we need to actually look back. Yorubas say, if we don't know where we are going, we should at least know where we are coming from.
But, so, you know, in watching the series, and I've watched quite a few of them, in fact, quite a number, I noticed something. More from Calabar, from who are Ijos, who either grew up in Ibadan or Lagos or Abeokuta. When do you plan to expand it to have a more national outlook?
Yes. Actually, it was supposed to be a pan-Nigeria project. But you start from your comfort zone, those that you know. And because it is not commercially driven, we're actually not marketing it. We're not expending funds into it. We just want people who believe in the idea to join us. If you actually feel that you have a story to tell, join us. And then what we have found out is that a particular sector, a particular section of the country, they are more interested in this than others. It's an eye-opener for us, because once I invite you once, twice, thrice, I stop, disturbing you, because it is also conveying another meaning. You know, people now begin to feel, why are you so interested? Why meanings are being read into our insistence or our persistence at times, when we, particularly from some part of the country. And I felt that no, I would rather want people who will voluntarily want to, and we have been getting voluntary guests. Those who will call from US and say, look, I'm coming to Nigeria on so day, and before I return, I must record my own episode. And we are getting all that. And I believe that we just need to just continue. Those that are interested will have them on. And then I believe that over time, we are going to get more people from other parts of the country to also come and tell their story. It's not like they don't have a past. They do. And shockingly too, I just found out that also, our level of patriotism, some don't even believe in a Nigerian dream. Some don't feel that it is necessary. So why are you talking about Nigeria? This is Nigeria. There are so many nations in a nation. So some people, their own out view, or what do I call it, is fundamental. It's fundamentally different. So, but we will continue to push for as long as we have guests. We'll continue to go on.
Okay, I wish you the very best as you do that. Now let's look at the development of character. You narrated a story of how your dad disciplined you. Right. To him.
It's printed. It's written.
So you know that and you were his biological son.
Yes.
These days, people hardly mete out corporal punishment. Are you in that school of thought?
Well, I'm also in a way that he would not even want. But in future, he will be thankful for it. But I also feel that it's not everything about caning. There are so many ways to skin a cat. So you can have, development has shown that you don't have to, pull your own weight on beating and all of that, So discipline, yes, I am for discipline. But the mode of discipline, now we can begin to talk about, okay, that era, that was what they knew. Because I had bruises. I don't think I want to have any child go through that.
Well, thankfully they're all grown ups now.
So even when they were growing up, yes.
Not to talk of 114.
Maybe the highest was 6 or something, But at least they had a feel of that punishment too. But it's not. And then we try also after maybe what our parents wouldn't do is after that punishment to find a way of reconciling with you and then let you don't want this again. These are the issues.
That brings to mind something. In parenting, no matter what you read in books, and there are quite a lot of books out there, you find that genuinity on your part as to how to engage. Growing up, it must have happened to you, it happened to me. You would have been disciplined or reprimanded wrongly for something you were not responsible for. And nobody would apologize to you.
Severally.
The relationship?
Oh, yeah. You see, I always say this. When I feel like this is the way, I tell them, this is how I feel. This is how I feel. You do it. I'll be the first to apologize if it's not working. So I think it builds some dangers involved in having it your way. So if you take that decision, if it boomerangs, then the next time I advise you, you will take it. It's more of making, also not always right.
Yes, certainly.
They're also not always right. So I think it is engagement that we need to do, more of engagement, for us to even be able to understand them.
Yes.
We need to talk to them, and then we'll find out that some to me, some music, I would engage them and say, what is the guy actually saying? Let's analyze, is it making any sense? Are you gaining anything from it? They can't even interpret, but they are enjoying it.
They're enjoying it now.
They're enjoying it.
The rhythm.
Yeah, it's just like someone told me, he said, one military officer years back, I said, why do you guys like music from Congo and all of that? He said, we are just enjoying the rhythm.
Yes.
Because if you dance, we just dance to the rhythm.
Music, you're a music practitioner, maybe not on a commercial basis, but to the extent of understanding music, playing music and all that, church music. A practitioner of music, how would you describe you love singing hymns, performing hymns? It's some music that was frowned on years back that now, that form is the accepted form now.
Let me just summarize it. Say in the church settings. Like you rightly said, some sects don't even consider music. Some did these hymns that are so rich. I call them ministrations in songs. Some of these hymns, all you need to do is just read them, and then the age and time. We don't find that our children, they want to move into more funkified things, and that is why you will see the Orthodox churches losing membership to the Pentecostal set, because the Pentecostal set have identified the niche and that gap in how to get hymns. I'm likely going to get a lot of this audience with me. So once they chose to do that, our children now begin to feel that that's the comfort zone. Let me also do the same thing. Then you now find the Protestants also saying, okay, don't worry, enough of losing our members. We too. So you now find out that the congregations back. So, and that is the reason why you have a lot of, but some of us still believe, while we try to understand, we still believe that we should not lose sight of those richness in those hymnals. So that's why occasionally we find ourselves doing that just to take us back. It is all about good old days too. It's all about
the good old days of music,
hymns, and all of that.
All right, so we'll take another break now, and when we come back, we'll continue our. Welcome back. It's still Timeless Conversations. Shemore Badejo is my guest. Now, Shemo, as we call it.
Yeah, I find that more convenient and comfortable.
So,
even the gate man in my office calls me Shemo.
Have you found missing in our national life that could be easily incorporated at little or no cost?
Well, let me say, nation, even as a company, I feel that the simplest definition of public relations, which also relates to a nation.
Yeah.
Now, what we hear, it's people demarketing even their country. You know, talking about, this country is finished. Yeah. This is that.
That's scary.
It's scary. And how do you? And then you still want that company, and you are still hoping that it will be better when you are demarketing it. And then how do you want?
Never.
We don't get to know. But here we are the first to condemn our system, condemn our country. There is this quote that says, "For all forms of government, let fools contend. Whatever that is best administered is best." It's not God's own country. Nigeria is. We have the second largest deposit of